Right, we landed on the other side of the mixer. Using the tab key, you get to this view of the mixer. And I consider this the big mixer, not because it's particularly big. I mean, look at this. I think this is just about the same size as the other mixer we had. Let's go back for a second. Hitting M for mixer. Yeah, I think it's, I can see a couple more elements. Need to unhide them first. Open this up. You know, this, yeah, this is really just the same, right? Yeah. So that is not why I consider this a big mixer. But the first big difference, of course, with the other mixer is the clip launcher that is shown here. It's exactly the same clip launcher as we looked at earlier. It's just in a different place. So don't let that confuse you. And if it does, you can always hide it, because in this view, it has its own view toggle, of course. The rest of them we just went through. The top one is for the clip launcher. If I don't want to see that in my project at the moment, I just click it to hide it. And I just shown you the device chain toggle at the other side. To be honest, I think this might be very handy to keep in view at all times, like so. Because I think it might be an enhancement to your workflow. As you can see, I've added a couple tracks just now behind the scenes, so I could give you an example in a minute. So these tracks are new, and there are devices on there, the E-kick, the E-hat, and the E-clap for very, very simple beat pattern. If I double click the track header, I go to the device panel, of course, and it shows me the devices that are on there, right? So if I go to the synth track, the polysynth, there are two devices, the polysynth and a compressor. But let me just close up the device panel. And in this view, all I need to do to see what's going on is have a look at the device chain. So if I want to go, for instance, to the compressor, I just double click it and device panel opens up. There's the compressor. E-kick, there it is. This, might be just a little faster than having to go all the way up to click the track header, I would assume. Plus, it's probably going to save you a little time because you don't need to look for certain devices. They're right there in your face. If you want to add another device, there's this plus sign. If you click this little button, you can add devices right there on the track. Opens up that same familiar devices menu. And you don't even need to click the plus sign. If you just right click, you get the contextual menu, and there are all those devices. Just edit that EQ, and there it is. So that is why I think, for me at least, it's maybe a good idea to have these devices in view at all times. Just going to speed up your workflow a bit, I think. The next one, again, the effect sense for the effect returns, or effect tracks as they call them in Bitwig Studio. And to make things complete, again, the I/O, the in and outs, inputs and outputs of our studio. In my type of music, I don't need a lot of inputs or outputs, so personally I would keep them away. Now, I've still not mentioned why I consider this the big mixer. Well, first of all, let me show you what I have. I added a couple clips. Like I mentioned, I used the Bitwig instruments for that, the E-kick. This one right here. There's one E-hat and there's an E-clap. They're actually pretty good. They're inside the Bitwig Devices Instruments folder. There's a couple more to check out. Let me just play these clips. Right? And here's a reason I don't like DAW metering. This here. What is up with this? Every DAW has got these tiny little miniature meters. And I'm not even talking about the faders. The faders are all right, you can just intuitively set your levels and such. But sometimes I just want to look at big meters to see the energy that's going on. And the guys at Bitwig must have read my mind, because look at this toggle. This is what they gave us. Giant meters. Look at this. Wow, now we're talking. Let's see this in action. Is that better or what? I love looking at big meters like this. So I'm really happy with that. Another thing, which by the way goes for the entire app, this goes for the whole app Bitwig Studio. If I want to reset any of these controls to their default value, what I do is just double click them. Okay, just like that. If I want to reset all these faders back to 0, double click and they're back up. So that's probably different from what you're used to, the option click. Bitwig Studio uses the double click. Another thing about the tracks, I can move them around at will. I can also select multiple tracks and move those around in blocks, or, delete them, and so on. So I guess we've covered most of the mixer, if not all. How about we go to the next video and maybe talk a little bit about the inspector.